Hey friend, are you asking yourself, is this what I really want to be doing with my life? I don't think so. I think there's something else that I'm meant to be doing. Welcome to the Painting Your Path podcast, where we have real conversations about what it takes to step out, be bold, and do you. I'm your host, Clarissa Castillo-Ramsey. Let's dive in. Hey, welcome back to the Painting Your Path podcast. I'm your host, Clarissa Castillo-Ramsey, and I'm so glad you're here today. Today's episode is a special one, and I feel like I say that about almost everyone, and this one is super special, not only because I'm joined by the incredible Briana Halliwell, but because this episode is dropping just one day after World Voice Day, a day dedicated to celebrating the power, beauty, and uniqueness of every voice, which, as you'll hear in this conversation, couldn't be more aligned with Briana's story and mission. In this episode, we talk about embodiment, healing, reclaiming your voice, and allowing your full self to be seen and heard. Her journey is inspiring, tender, and fierce. All the things we stand for here on the show. So if you've ever felt like your voice didn't matter, or like there was more of you waiting to be expressed, this episode is for you. And here's a little bit more about my guest, Briana. Briana is a creative communicator living in Colorado who is in the midst of a profound life transition, reclaiming her voice and stepping into her power. A lifelong adventurer and advocate for the wild world, she has spent years guiding others into deeper connection with nature. Now, as she heals from spasmodic dysphonia, she's learning how to use her voice in new ways. To speak for the earth, share her truth, and inspire others to do the same. She's transitioning from she's transitioning from the world of freelance writing and editing into following her passion to become a professional animal communicator and wilderness soul guide. In her free time, Briana enjoys hiking with her dog Callie, dancing, playing guitar, and practicing yoga. And speaking of self-expression and reclaiming your voice, I just want to gently remind you that my 6-week group program, The Art of Becoming, is coming back this June. It's a transformational journey for women ready to break free from perfectionism and reconnect with their creativity and become the artists of their own lives. Whether that's on campus, in your career, or through the way you show up each day. So if you're feeling a little nudge, if something in today's episode resonates with where you are, where you want to go, I encourage you to join the wait list. The link is in the show notes. You'll be the first to know when the doors officially open, and trust me, it's going to be even more magical this round. Okay, without further ado, let's dive into my conversation with Briana Halliwell. Briana, it is so great to have you on the Painting Your Path podcast.
It's really wonderful to be here. Thank you.
I always like to ask my guests before we dive in to just share a little bit about themselves, just so we can get to know you a little bit.
Okay. My name is Briana, and I'm living in Boulder, Colorado. I moved here a few months ago after many years of traveling, both internationally and domestically. I am an intuitive interspecies communicator, which is also might be known as an animal communicator. And that just means that I have this deep heart connection with animals and the more than human world, including the earth and mountains and rivers and plants and trees. And my purpose in this lifetime is to help bridge the gap between humans and the more than human world or the earth. And I do that through writing and through leading workshops and retreats and just practicing animal communication, both with people's companion animals and with wild and captive wildlife.
I love that. And you are my people. I'm a Taurus, I'm an earth sign,
Mhm.
and um, I spend my mornings. The first thing I do is check on my birds.
Oh, wow.
They're we don't own any birds, but just
Mhm.
birds in the wildlife. I live in the mountains
Mhm.
and I just love hanging out with them and talking to them and thinking they can understand me. Maybe they can, maybe they can't, but that is one of like my most joyful moments. So I think this is what you do is wonderful.
Mhm.
And um, you know, I do believe animals are talking to us, communicating with us, and as nature also. And
Mhm.
I often look to nature as like a guide to my life. And so, yeah, so excited that you do this work too.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to have you on the podcast, Brianna, because we met through a Facebook group, which of course I'm forgetting the name now. I think it's Vocal Freedom Program with Jim
Yes.
Bostock. And we both have spasmodic dysphonia, which I think more people are hearing about because of RFK. He has it too. And I would love it if we could just dive into that a little bit. You're my first guest
Mhm.
to have this condition, and I have really been
Mhm.
wanting to bring somebody on to connect with and just talk about this journey. So, would you be willing to just share a little bit about how this is working with like working for you and what you're
Mhm.
doing?
Yeah, definitely. It's this kind of, I often call it just a tension or a tremor in my voice. It happens mostly when I'm under pretty extreme stress, which, because of the way my nervous system is wired, is actually more often in my life than it probably would be for someone who had a differently regulated nervous system. And I started to notice the shaker tremor and um, kind of difficulty accessing my voice about 6 years ago. Um, and it was at a very stressful time in my life when I was working with captive big cats. And there was a couple of attacks that happened that it was an attack to my head, which I think is in part what triggered the spasmodic dysphonia to initiate in my voice, especially because at the time I the place where I was working, the management didn't want to hear my side of the story. And there were ways in which I was silenced and kind of just put off to the side and invited to just do other types of work, even though my passion was working with the animals. And this is before I became an interspecies communicator, but I had a very clear sense in my body and my nervous system that there was something wrong with the way that we were interacting with those animals, and that the attacks only happened because of this kind of divide, or disconnect between the way that we were taught to take care of them and how they actually needed to be like treated and cared for. And once once I left that kind of toxic workplace, I moved back to my childhood home and started digging deeper into childhood trauma. And as it felt like the deeper I went into that trauma that was stored in my body, the worse my voice got over a period of many years.
Yes, and, uh, and how could you share with us, in case somebody is listening who has spasmodic dysphonia, what are some of the treatments, if you've done any, um, which you found helpful, or just anything you've done to help yourself and
Mhm.
your voice?
Mhm. I I would say the biggest thing for me is nervous system regulation and helping doing practices that help to calm my vagus nerve, including meditation, cold showers, or any kind of cold therapy exposure, or cold exposure therapy.
Yes.
Honestly, laughing and singing, the less seriously I take myself and the more I'm able to deepen into a level of trust and confidence in who I am and what I'm doing in the world and really believe in myself, the better I find, um, my voice just comes across better and more confidently.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing. And I personally am never gonna do Botox, and there's no
Yeah.
shade to anybody who does. I believe you do you, when it comes to your healthcare, but for me, I've just talked to so many people that it just hasn't, been super effective, and quite frankly, I'm afraid. I don't I was talking to someone and he was like, yeah, the doctor missed, and I get it. The vocal cord is very tiny. And he said, "It went into my stomach." And he
Oh,
was like, "I really have no idea what kind of adverse effects that might have." So he just said,
yeah.
"Never again. I'm not going to do it."
Understandable.
Yeah. And and to your point, I think laughter super helpful.
Mhm.
Singing is often much easier than talking.
Mhm.
And um and I did go through vocal therapy, which
Mhm.
was helpful. I think part of this condition is rewiring the brain to remember how we spoke before.
Mhm.
So, but it's also like exercising. So I'll be
Yeah.
honest, I don't always do my vocal exercises, but they do help. And I
Mhm.
just want to say thank you so much for being brave and coming on the show. I know it's not easy. At the
Mhm.
same time, I think it's important for me, especially, excuse me, as a podcast host, to share people's stories. And this season is all about the messy middle, which you
Mhm.
and I are navigating
Yes.
with our voices. So thank you, Brianna, for just sharing your story.
Mm, mhm. Well, it's an honor to have been asked. I have taken myself out of the public eye for the past several years as I've been navigating this voice condition because, it is embarrassing to especially introduce myself to new people or to try to come across in a way that people can actually relate to. I feel like often I have used my voice as an excuse to keep myself small and quiet and behind the scenes, but life and the world is asking a lot of all of us right now. And it's incredibly important for me to have these platforms to be able to share my story. So thank you for the invitation.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I love that before we hit record, you talked about this rooting in place while remaining open to change.
Mm.
And I know you live in Boulder, Colorado, which is a beautiful, beautiful place and state. But what else would you like to share about that notion of rooting in place while remaining open to change?
Well, that's a big question. Um, the place where I am in my life in this present moment is with almost every area of my life in uncertainty, including career and housing, location, place, relationship. It just have don't really have any external structures um, that are anchoring me in any big way. But I do have this deep sense of calling and vocation that is coming from the earth and from my spiritual life. And that it sometimes feels like the call is conflicting because in one way I'm being called to deepen into one single place to develop or to cultivate a really deep relationship with a piece of land, which is a big reason why I moved out here to Colorado, because I have a really deep spiritual connection with this place and really love the human community and the earth community here. But I also keep receiving these invitations to travel beyond. I spent 2 months in South Africa last August and September and developed really, really deep connections with that place and people there, and have been invited to return this coming August and am in the process of trying to navigate, yeah, what it means to deepen into a place-based community here in Colorado, but also be open to the possibility that there are other places and other beings, other things that are calling me to be in other places in the world.
Uh, and I think that is an exciting time too. It's what I like to call nerve sighted. A little, you're a little nervous, but also really excited. And it's really the same thing, just depending on your mindset.
Mhm.
And I just know that for people, people, animals, the earth, everybody is lucky to have you because your
Mhm.
spirit is so bright.
Thank you.
I know we just met through Jim's group and through DMs and connecting here, but I can really feel that.
Thank you.
Yes. And is there anything else you would like to share with our community?
Um, yeah, I think one of the biggest messages that I'd like to share is a message of hope, of the possibility that whatever struggle that you're going through right now and the world as a whole, we are in a collective, um, really, really deep struggle of reconciling relationship with each other, with the earth, with this planet and the cosmos, and our connections with everything that we share this life with. And it is fundamentally important to remember that during these times of reckoning and destruction and fear, that there is a place that we can return to, both within ourselves and in community, where there is a sense that that life can be fundamentally different than it is. And it's important that we encourage each other to hold on to the little threads of hope that exist in the cracks of our current situation.
Love that. And I might cry because where I live, I'm in Altadena, which is where the fires happened earlier this year. So everything that you have said, I can relate to what's going on in my community.
Mhm.
And so I feel blessed to still have my house. So many people on my street aren't so lucky, and so many buildings here have collapsed. And I'm also seeing the community come together. So I just want to echo that your message of hope. So thank you so much, Brianna.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Yeah.
vulnerability. That's my heart really goes out to all of the communities who are deeply affected by the climate crisis. And it's, yeah, it is a deep privilege for me to be in a place that where I do have a sense of safety and stability on some level and have the ability to offer my care and resources to those who've been more directly affected.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, and I know it's not just happening here. There's so much happening everywhere.
Mhm.
So that message of hope is so important. Well, I'm gonna switch it up and take us a little lighter. But thank you for that. And so what I like to do now, Brianna, is do what I call rapid fire questions just so the audience can get to know you a little bit better.
Okay.
So my first question is, do you have a word of the year?
Mm, acceptance.
Acceptance, that is a good one.
Yes.
Mine is surrender.
Oh, that's a really good one too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
surrender. How about a motto that you live by?
Mm, um, I don't know if it's so much a motto, but when I was a little kid, and actually throughout my life, whenever I was in a position of not knowing which way to turn or what to do with my life, my mom taught me this prayer, which is just it's a surrender prayer. It's
Nice.
kind of turning my hands up to the forces of I call it the animate universe, but other people
Yes.
might use the word God or whatever word fits for you. But just kind of turning myself over and asking, I have no idea what you want me to do. You will have to show me. And then just trusting whatever life offers. And every single time that I have asked that prayer fervently, with from a really authentic place, I have received clarity about the next step within a day or two.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
How about your favorite color?
Definitely green, like a deep forest green.
So I can see why. Yes. How about a current obsession?
uh, that's an interesting question. Um, I mean, I guess animal communication and intuitive healing is what I've been kind of obsessed with it for
Nice.
many years, and it is still at the top of the things that I care about and I research and I talk about and I take classes on. So
Nice.
definitely that.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And what are you reading or listening to these days?
Mm, right now, I am reading Boyd Vardy's book called Cathedral of the Wild. It's one of my all-time favorite books about he grew up in South Africa on a place called Ondolozi Game Reserve up in Kruger National Park. And so it's his autobiography writing about what it was like to grow up with a family that had created these game reserves all throughout South Africa to protect and care for the wildlife. And yeah, just his stories of encounters with elephants and lions and like all of these wild animals in the bush, and that being his whole childhood. And it's such a beautiful description of South Africa and of how we can reconnect with the wild world.
Oh, beautiful. I will have to put that on my list. I
Mhm.
have not heard about that.
Mhm.
And how about the best place for people to connect with you if they want to learn more about you?
Mhm. I am, like I said, I've been a bit out of the public eye in recent years. And that means I'm not really on social media, though I do have an Instagram page, which I'm happy to share the handle of. It's at truly Bri 93, and Bri is BRI. And but I haven't been active on it for a couple years. I am in the process of developing a website, and I do have a newsletter that I send out periodically, which I don't actually know. I don't have a way of sharing that with people whose emails I don't have yet, but working.
Yeah, working on it. And what we can do, Brianna, is always update the show notes. And we
Okay.
can definitely include your Instagram handle because
Okay.
I'm guessing that when it's up and ready, maybe
Hmm.
you'll post it there so people
Hmm.
can find
Definitely.
you. So yeah, so we can definitely do that.
Okay.
And my last question for you, which is a question I ask all my guests. The name of this podcast is Painting Your Path. What does painting your path mean to you?
Hmm. It, I love the title of the podcast because so much of the way that I live my life is painting my own path. Um, just recently, a friend was like, "Wow, you're very unconventional." It's like, yeah, you're right. In pretty much all ways, I have steered off course.
Yes.
Um, Pretty much since I was a little kid. I was like climbing ladders when I was 2 years old and just kind of getting into trouble from a very early age. It's just part of who I am. And um, yeah, it's especially with the spasmodic dysphonia, the voice, the nervous system, kind of dysregulation. I've spent a lot of the early half of my life trying to some extent to conform, like to be what other people wanted me to be, as I was rebelling against those stereotypes or those expectations of me. And it always kind of felt like this like push pull sort of thing. And I was just sharing with a friend recently, I feel like at this stage of my life, I'm in my early 30s. I feel like I'm going through a second puberty and I'm like in that awkward, gangly teenager stage of like trying to figure out like, okay, now I actually know who I am separate from what other people want me to be or what I think that they want me to be. And I'm learning how to step more fully into my identity and to really claim my own path in a way that doesn't keep kind of pulling me into like the norms of society. And I just don't know any other way to live because
Yes.
this calling is so clear in me that even though it's not coming from the human world per se, it feels like the only way that I can respond to life is just to continue to stay open and carve my own path that is very unconventional and very much off the beaten path.
Well, keep doing it. And it's funny you said second puberty because sometimes when I talk about this vocal condition, I never know how my voice is going to come out. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's super cracky, like a little boy's voice going, like turning into a man's. And
Right.
so, so I totally relate with that.
Mhm.
And it's nice to hear you kind of saying that too.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and I'm 52, and I feel like, I'm still like similar, just
Mm.
continuing to step into who I am, which
Mhm.
I believe is partly why this happened, because it
Mhm.
came during a moment of stress
Mhm.
where I realized, like, uh-oh, I have created another job for myself, and this is what I wanted to get away from.
Oh, no.
You
Yeah.
know, and but now I'm stepping in more into creativity, self-discovery, and wellness, and I help others do the same.
Mm.
This feels so much more in alignment,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
just surrendering, and not forcing an outcome.
Mhm.
And just like to your point, like let go, let God, and just
Yes.
trusting and asking the universe, okay, I don't know which way to go. You're gonna have to show me the way. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Uh,
Mhm.
yes. Well, Brianna, it was such a pleasure to connect with you. Thank you again for being brave and sharing your story. And we'll keep your episode updated
Mhm.
as things unfold for you. So
Okay.
thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Clarissa. This was really a true honor. I'm so grateful for the time that we had together and for this opportunity to share my story.
Yes, thank you. And thank you to everybody tuning in. And as I always like to ask, tell us your biggest takeaway. Let me know on social media and I'll pass it on to Brianna. And until next time, keep painting your path. Thank you so much for staying till the very end. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with a friend. If you haven't had a chance yet, please write a review and rate the show. I would love to hear your feedback. And I also have a free resource guide for anybody who is asking themselves, am I on the right path for myself now? Or is there something else that I really want to do? Maybe you're in that quandary. Maybe you're wondering what's next. So head over to the show notes and you'll see my Painting Your Path framework guide. Download it and have some fun. Just start exploring. And thank you again for tuning in, and I will see you next week.